question is, what do you want?
I don't know. To be happy?
To be happy.
I want the American dream. I want to be happy.
যেতে পারি শান্ত করো টাটা টাটা টাটা
আর অনেকে গালাগালিও করে দেয় মাঝে সাঝে, যারা ধরুন একটু ডিম করে থাকে, হয়তো রিস্কায় উঠলো, তারা গালাগালি, তাকে যে আর মারতে যাবো আমি মারি, ঝগড়া করি না। কেন আজকে ঝগড়া করবো, আবার পরের দিন আমার রিস্কায় উঠবে না বলে ঝগড়া করে ঠিক আছে, দুটো গালাগালি করলো।
Would it surprise you to know that in a recent survey, this rickshaw driver, Manoj Singh, was found to be as happy as the average American?
তখন খালি পায়ে দাঁড়ায়, তখন ওই গরমকালে একটু বেশি কষ্ট হয় আমাদের, পা পড়ে, প্লাস এদিকে রোদ্দুর তাপ। আর এমনি বর্ষাকাল ভালো, আমাদের কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, ভিজে গেলেও কোনো চিন্তা থাকে না, জানি আবার শুকিয়ে যায়, আর একটা প্যাসেঞ্জার তুলে দৌড়লে শুকিয়ে যাবে। বাড়ি আমার ভালো, বাড়িতে ভালো লাগে, একদিক দিয়ে এদিকে ফাঁকা, হাওয়াও আসে। বর্ষাকালে একটু কষ্ট হয়, ঝাপটা ঝুপটি চারিদিক দিয়ে মারে, তখন অসুবিধা, নাহলে এমনি প্লাস্টিক উপরে আছে, চার সাইডে প্লাস্টিক দেওয়া, প্লাস একদিকে জানলা আছে, ওই জানলাতে হাওয়া ভালোই আসে, ভালোই থাকি, খারাপ কিছু না। এই সকালবেলা ফিরি, যখন ওরা বসে থাকে ওই চার দোকান সামনেই, ওরা যখন মানে তাকায় রাস্তার দিকে যে বাবা এই আসবে, বাবা এই আসবে, তখন ওদেরও মন ভালো লাগে, প্লাস আমাকে যখন বাবা বলে ডাকে, আমার মনটা আরো খুব খুশি হয় আর কি। ওই বাচ্চা কাচ্চা যখন, ওই গরিব বলতে গেলে কি, বাচ্চা কাচ্চার মুখ দেখে তখন আমার বুকটা এত উঁচু হয়ে যায় যে আমার মতন কেউ বড় লোক নেই। হয়তো নুন ভাত খাচ্ছি, কিন্তু খুব আনন্দ হয় যে না, কারোর সাথে ঝগড়াঝাটি নেই, কারোর সাথে এই যে মিলে রয়েছে, আমাদের খুব আনন্দ হয়। আমরা সবাই বন্ধু।
For hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, people have studied depression and psychological illness. The goal of psychologists was primarily to rid a patient of their problems. Recently, however, modern science has begun to look at how happiness works. What are the building blocks of a life that's not just free of illness, but one that flourishes with a deep and genuine happiness?
When I got into happiness research, it was 1981. It was not a popular field in psychology. People thought it was flaky, that it was loose. A professor said to me, you can never measure happiness. Now, why they thought you could measure depression, which they were all doing, but you couldn't measure happiness, I'm not sure. And then in the 90s, people started getting interested in it, and now it's absolutely amazing how many people are interested.
Magazine articles and books are being written about it. There's even a new field of science called positive psychology, which studies happiness. It became the most popular class at Harvard, with 1,000 kids showing up every week for a happiness class.
The first thing is to realize that happiness can actually help you get your other goals, have better relationships, make more money, do better at the job. People on the job are going to like you better if you're happy. What we've done, and I've done this for the last 25 years, collecting data. So we follow people and look at their moods over time. We've also looked at random samples of people from around the world, who's happy, who's not happy. Then we crunch all these numbers and we say, gee, what really matters?
By studying identical twins, people with almost exactly the same genetic makeup, researchers have discovered that approximately 50% of the differences in our happiness levels is determined by our genes. They call that our genetic set point, or our genetic set range.
Most of us are born with a certain range of happiness
that we fall in most of the time. And even when really good or really bad things happen to us, we kind of tend to return to our set point.
And while 50% is genetic, amazingly, our circumstances, like what job we have or how much money we have, our social status, our health, those things that many of us are told to focus on, they only account for 10% of the differences in our happiness.
Most people are kind of stunned at how small that is, but that still leaves 40% unaccounted for. And so our theory suggests that there is a great deal you can do to become happier, and that 40% is left for kind of intentional behavior, things that we can do on a regular basis to become happier. It's very important, if a person wants to become happier, to try not to adapt to what they're doing. So they would consciously vary what they do. It could be like when you do your daily run that you take a different route. I mean, that's not really, mind-boggling. For some people, it's going to be a lot of change. For some people, it's going to be a little, but that change is important. It's sort of the variety of the spice of life.
This is a paradise to me. That's why I love it so much. And then you don't know what you're gonna see. People, call me for a tour. Well, what we gonna see? I don't know what you're gonna see, but we're gonna see something. Look right there. That's a crawfish eater. Look at that alligator on that big log. See it? I feel like a kid, man. And right where we at there, straight ahead, my house is right there across the levee. In the afternoon, sometime I'm kind of like down a little bit. I jump on my four-wheeler and I come park right there. My house is right there. And I watch these birds pass and just listen to the stillness. This, wildlife and being out here, you don't know what you're gonna see. But nature, especially like this, it's good medicine. This is my happiness.
Any discussion of happiness centers a lot on dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical in the brain called a neurotransmitter that's necessary for feelings of pleasure and happiness.
So electrical impulses come down a nerve, they hit the connection, and the connection releases chemicals. The chemicals diffuse to the next nerve cell, they bind to receptors in the next nerve cell, and they cause an electrical change. That chemical release that is released is called a neurotransmitter.
Pretty much as you age, from about teenage years onward, you're slowly losing dopamine synapses and probably dopamine neurons as well. As far as we know, no one's observed those regenerating. If it's too severe, then you end up with Parkinson's disease. The body adapts to what it needs to do. So the use it or lose it probably applies to some degree in the brain as well. And so the idea would be to seek out experiences that release dopamine or you need dopamine to do. The things that are best at doing that, interestingly, involve physical activity. So aerobic exercise is probably one of the best releasers of dopamine, especially if you do it in novel ways.
What makes you happy?
I like banana splits, I like banana peels, I like big bananas.
The brain is basically, on this level, it's very similar to a muscle. The parts of the brain that are
Look.
Sorry. I thought you were going to say the phrase sponge, but I'll go with muscle.
Qualquer atividade física é muito importante para qualquer ser humano. Que está numa idade que todo mundo no planeta talvez sinta que já está caindo, sabe? E eu me sinto subindo ainda, sabe? Então isso me sinto feliz, sabe? E muitas vezes você está ganhando dinheiro que é bom para você, mas não está se cuidando, né? Você não está se olhando, você não está feliz. Você dorme a cabeça no travesseiro, preocupado com o que é que eu vou pagar amanhã, quanto é que eu devo hoje, entendeu? Então, o esporte tira você disso, sabe? Dá um mergulho. Dá um mergulho. Espiritual, religião. Meu surf para mim é religião, sabe? Eu surfo desde o tempo de 1966. Quer dizer, eu estou fazendo uns 41 anos de surf, então... Sente exatamente isso, essa harmonia com a natureza, esse entrosamento com a natureza. É uma vida que eu escolhi, né? Não é uma vida de doutor, não, mas eu vivo bem, sabe? Os pássaros caem das árvores, caem no chão, o gato come. Aí a gente cria eles para até voar, sabe? Mas é muito gratificante você poder surfar com os filhos, sabe? Para que eles nunca digam que eu não fiz o que eles gostaram de ser. Se ele quiser ser surfista, ele vai ser. Se ele quiser ser um doutor, ele vai ser. Minha filha quer ser uma economista, ela vai ser. Entendeu? É o que eu digo sempre para meus filhos, né? Procura trabalhar para poder não viver uma vida tranquila, sabe?
It turns out that there's another component of surfing and exercise that can increase your happiness. It's what an athlete would call being in the zone.
I started studying people who were doing something very difficult and demanding for no good reason, no money, no status, nothing, but just because they like to do it. My understanding of what motivated these activities was not anything that came from outside, but it came from the activity itself. And I gave the name flow to this kind of synergy of different aspects of consciousness where you wish you could go forever because it feels that you are completely fulfilling something that you can do well and you can see it happening and you feel that nothing else matters. To have very clear goals, that you know moment by moment what you have to do. Like if you're singing or playing a musical instrument, you always know what notes or chords you want to play next, and you can hear whether you did it right or not. People in that situation feel in control, they forget their problems. Interestingly, they forget themselves, so that the kind of ego that we are always aware of in everyday life disappears. It builds over time a feeling that life is worth living.
Flow can happen almost anywhere. It can happen during personal time, or it can happen with your family. It can even happen at your job.
It's all in the rhythm. It's all in the, just keeping the rhythm going. Doing it 14 years. I love it. Don't want to go nowhere else.
Why do you love it?
It's like cooking. I always did.
I gotta order hash browns all the way. Patty milk.
That's the grill operator.
The research is clear. People who experience flow on a regular basis are happier than those who don't.
much of what we believe about the causes and sources of happiness simply isn't true. People overestimate how much impact both good and bad events will have on them in the future. People believe that if good things happen, they're going to be ecstatic and that joy will last a very long time. In fact, they are ecstatic and the joy quickly dissipates. People believe that if bad things happen, losing a lover, losing a football game, losing a job, they will be devastated and devastated for a very long time. In fact, they are devastated for a very short time. In general, people do really good when things go really bad. Sounds like a country song, but it actually turns out to be true.
This is Town and Country in 1969, and I was featured as one of the top 50 debutantes in the country at the International Ball, along with Tricia Nixon and people like that.
She was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, and I still have pictures of her, you know, when she was 20. All my memories of my mother are just fond, and I mean, she was a genuinely good mother all my life.
I was very, very busy raising 3 children and loving that, and raising horses on my ranch and doing volunteer work. I had a very full life, busy, busy, busy. My kids were in soccer and baseball and things like that. When I was run over by a truck in 1992, I was in shock. My whole life changed instantaneously. It was the 4th of July on my family ranch in Texas, where I'm from. We were coming in our truck from the barn right here, and as we were approaching, I saw my sister-in-law driving down the road in her truck, and I thought, well, if she stops, I'll get out and we'll talk. And so she did. And so I got out, and I guess it was right here, actually, where the truck was. And we were having a disagreement. Wow. She drove off in a hurry, and when she did, my hand was on the door handle. I was running alongside, trying to get my hand out and screaming, and fell. And when I fell, I was dragged until my hand disengaged and I fell under the truck. And I was crawling and clawing the gravel to try and get away, and I couldn't. And it went over up my spine and over my head and crushed my face in the rocks.
My dad had already jumped out of the truck and was screaming, and I got there, and of course we both thought you were dead.
When I was in ICU, they could only recognize me by my hands.
Just, oh, my poor, beautiful mother.
And I had friends who didn't know what had happened to me. If I saw them on the street and went up to them, they just fell apart and started crying and were horrified. My husband divorced me and left me. He became a really bad alcoholic. It was very traumatic for him too, but for 9.5 years, I was totally disabled. I've had 30 surgeries on my face. I don't know if it was a dream or if it was a vision or whatever, because I was kind of groggy after the surgery. And I had these images of, and not an image that I had remembered ever seeing on my dad's face, but just this lecherous look. The memories that were coming back were of abuse by him, not just fondling, but fondling me, but also raping and threatening to kill me with his hands around my neck when I fought. I guess the shock of the trauma cracked this very good denial system I had built up in my life. I just really was angry I was alive. I thought about killing myself. I would buy myself time, say, well, okay, that's always an option, but I'll wait 6 months because I've got to be here for my kids today. I'd always been a super doer, an overachiever, a need-to-know person. And to be able to say, I don't understand, and I don't need to understand, and that's okay. It was kind of a catalyst of a healing process in my entire family. But it was very scary. In my life, integrating, accepting all of my life is part of healing. And I have horses. I found them very healing to me. I had seen him at one of my stepdaughter's wedding. We knew each other years ago, and he asked me things like, did my nose work? And I liked and appreciated that, you know. And what was it like having been beautiful and then not? He wasn't afraid to talk to me, to talk about things. And we got married a little over 2 years ago. His name is Happy, and we have a wonderful life together. Calls me beautiful, and I love him. Yeah, it is a strange truth, but the truth is I am a happier person. I am more grounded, more centered, more connected and integrated with who I am and grateful for who I am today. I'm working with other people now as a practitioner. I think that you can make a choice and that you do make a choice when things happen in life.
Oh, this is fun. I haven't just stood out in the rain in quite a while.
There's a general lay sense that all adversity is bad, and the scientific research doesn't really support that. One of the key ingredients to happiness is being able to recover from adversity more quickly. So it's not that people who are happy don't respond to adversity. They do. They show an appropriate response to adversity, but they come back down to baseline quickly.
There's no such thing as pleasure without pain, of whatever sort, emotional or otherwise, physical or otherwise. Your nervous system is a differential engine. It looks at differences, it looks at contrast. That's all it cares about. It integrates information by integrating a bunch of little differences and things.
What do you want out of life?
To be successful, to be happy, and to live a long, healthy life.
What's going to make you successful and happy? What will make you feel like you're successful and happy?
Right now, money. Yeah, lots of money.
We're told in our society that the way to be a competent person, the way to be a good person, is to make a lot of money. In the last 50 years, economic growth has gone up a lot. In America, for example, we're about twice as wealthy as we were 50 years ago. But nationally representative surveys of people's happiness show that happiness has remained stagnant. People aren't any happier than they were 50 years ago, even though they're living in a lot bigger houses, they have more cars.
Anybody who says money doesn't buy happiness should go talk to somebody living under a bridge. But anybody who says money buys happiness should go talk to Bill Gates, okay? Neither of those things is actually true. When money buys you out of the burdens of homelessness, of not knowing where your next meal will come from, it changes your happiness dramatically. But once you have basic needs met, more money doesn't seem to buy more happiness. The difference in happiness between a person who earns $5,000 and $50,000 is dramatic. The difference in happiness between a person who earns $50,000 and $50 million is not dramatic.
The idea goes back to this notion of the hedonic treadmill, which says that whatever level of wealth or material goods you have, you adapt to it and you'll always want more. That's what the hedonic treadmill is.
The hedonic adaptation is one of the main enemies of happiness.
Remember Roy Blanchard? He told us earlier about the novelty and the beauty he experiences in nature. Well, Roy's also part of a family that just might be one of the happiest families around. The Blanchards are an extended family of children, siblings, and in-laws. Most live within a few miles of each other. They live modestly and with very little material wealth. but they seem to have plenty of happiness to go around.
Tout notre enfant parle le français, c'est la dernière. Et la plus jeune.
In English, somebody tell you something and you didn't understand it, you say, could you please repeat that again? I didn't understand it. In French, you say, ah.
That's your
We didn't even have toilet paper. We had to use the Sears catalog.
That's American. Isn't that American? Using the Sears catalog, that's American.
And how often do you come together?
Oh, at least once a week.
We were our playmates. Our parents, they were the playingest people. They played marble with us. We swam every day.
Every afternoon, the whole family would be in the lake swimming.
All this food right here didn't cost us a penny. We could feed 25 people for nothing. If you got to buy all that, you almost got to be rich. But, you know, that's the way we live. We call it live off the land. And that one got good. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Enough for one person. My daddy, he was a carpenter.
Somebody needs something done, we just get together and we do it.
The daddy built a lot of our houses. We didn't hire no plumbers and electricians. The family was able to put us a house together.
We studied some of the happiest people, and we found, without exception, that all of them had close, supportive family and friends. That didn't mean that they loved everybody or, you know, they got along with everybody, but what it meant was every one of them had close family and friends.
We make a distinction between two main kinds of goals or values which people might pursue in life: intrinsic goals and extrinsic goals. So extrinsic goals are extrinsic in the sense that they're focused on something external to you. They're focused on rewards, they're focused on praise, they're focused on getting stuff. And the three main examples of extrinsic goals we've looked at in our research are for money and financial success, for image, kind of looking good, having the right appearance, and for status or popularity. Now we contrast those with intrinsic goals. Intrinsic goals are inherently satisfying in and of themselves because they have to do with intrinsic psychological needs that all people have. And the three intrinsic goals which we've studied are goals for personal growth, trying to be who I really am, having close connected relationships with like friends and my loved ones, and then community feeling, which is having a sense of wanting to help the world to be a better place. We found that intrinsic goals are on the exact opposite side of value systems compared to extrinsic goals, okay? They're in opposition with each other. The other thing we know from a decade of research at this point is that people who were more oriented towards money and status and image were reporting less satisfaction with their lives. They were more depressed, more anxious. We found that they felt less vital, less sort of energized in their day-to-day life. On the other hand, intrinsically oriented people were more happy. They were reporting more vitality, less depression, less anxiety.
If our values are a key component of happiness, that may explain one of the anomalies in international happiness research. According to an increasing amount of data, Japan is the least happy of the wealthy industrialized nations.
最後の質問なんですけど、今日は何の日でいらっしゃいますか？
誕生日です。
おいくつになられるんですか
？39です。
39、お若いですよね。
ありがとうございます。
はい。けど誕生日の日にこういう友達と飲まれて例えばご両親とか、彼女とかどうおっしゃってますか？
誘われるがままに言ってますんで、彼女には言ってあります。それよりか大事なちょっと仕事の話があるんで、で彼女とは明日会います。明日会います。
After World War II, Japan's entire workforce was mobilized to rebuild the country from the ground up. For decades, they emphasized economic growth and material prosperity above all else, and their achievements were the envy of the Western world. But those achievements have come at an awful price. A telling and dangerous phenomenon is occurring in Japan. People are working such long hours and enduring so much stress that they are literally working themselves to death. It's become so common, so many people have died, that they even have a word for it: karoshi. This toxic lifestyle is leading to record low levels of happiness among the Japanese.
トヨタで無駄をなくす無駄をなくすって言うんですけど、そうするとこういいように聞こえるんですけど、それは人間としてのゆとりをなくしてるっていうことで、効率効率ってもう今限界だと思うんですよ。お盆休みがあったんですけども、その頃からちょっとおかしいなって思ったんですよ。なんかこういつも考えてるっていう感じで、こうお盆休みも何日か出勤をしていて、亜美は3歳ですね。
亜美、もうすぐパパ帰ってくるね。今日仕事から帰ってくるよ。そしたらなんて言う？なんて言おうか。おかえりは。来たよ。亜美、亜美。
誰だ？
亜美誰だった？
よいどん、よいどんなんちゅう。パパじゃん、亜美。いい子しとった？
亜美？
少し覚えてるね。亜美、あれ何？なんだ。よいしょ。
とにかく遊びたいですからね。夫が疲れてるどこは全然わかりませんから、やっぱり会えば抱っことか、だんだんその回数が減ってったんですね。夫が亡くなった日は、疲れてはいましたけど、それでも行ってくるわって言って出かけたんです。品質に関してチェックをするようなところでした。で、会社の申し送り帳っていうのがあって、それを後から見ると、当日やっぱりいろいろ不具合が出てるんですね。助けてほしいっていうようなことを言ってたと。上司と申し送り帳を書いてる途中に突然倒れました。着いた時には心肺停止。
one small Asian country is taking a different path. Bhutan is a country with a fledgling economy, and one might expect it to follow economic policies that prioritize growth, as do most developing nations.
What we saw was that in the pursuit of economic development, people and societies had lost their cultures, their environment, their social systems, and humanity was having problems. That's why Bhutan said, okay, this is not enough. GDP is not enough. Humanity needs a higher goal for development, and that is gross national happiness.
What they're doing in Bhutan is, instead of trying to maximize gross national product, they're trying to maximize gross national happiness. They're trying to figure out what is it that's going to make our people happy. Not rich, but happy.
We believe that this contentment, this happiness lies within the self, and there's no external source. The faster car, bigger house, more fashionable clothes is not going to give you that contentment. It might give you fleeting pleasure, but not contentment. Gross national happiness is the responsibility of the government to create an environment where citizens can pursue happiness.
So let's say, for example, Bhutan has got lots of potential to dam up its valleys, sell hydroelectricity to India, but when they flood their valleys, they have to move people. When they flood their valleys, they lose their forest cover. They lose some of their sites of spiritual significance to them. So what they want to do is they want to balance these things. They want to think just not, oh, okay, dam this valley, sell this amount of hydro to India for this amount of money, GDP goes up. They want to look at it in a more textured approach.
Gross national happiness is important that it makes us think about what we do, of ourselves as individuals, of society, of the world. Think rationally, think holistically, think spiritually. In terms of environment, our law says 60% of Bhutan must always be forest. In terms of culture, we have monasteries, we have schools to be protected by the state, we have rules on dress, language, architecture. So this is how the government is creating this environment.
If we think about societies, the ultimate purpose of society should be to produce long and happy lives for its citizens.
The people of Bhutan have only recently begun pursuing gross national happiness. And to know how successful they'll be, we'll have to wait and see. Another country in a different part of the world consistently ranks as the happiest country on earth. Denmark is known for its social equality and high standard of living. All Danes are provided free education through college and free health care for life. But Denmark's most unique and revealing quality is that it has more of its population living in what are called co-housing communities than in any other modern industrialized nation. In Danish co-housing communities, multiple families live on a plot of land, or even in a single building, where certain chores and benefits are shared by everyone.
When I moved in here, I was newly divorced with 2 little children. I didn't have a work, so I was kind of isolated. If I had to move in a flat alone, I would go down. I would be depressed. I would isolate, and so I thought I had to find this place, and I found it. It was a miracle. I found it. We live 20 families together. The houses are close to each other. This is our house. We live 4 people here, and outside here I have a little extra room. It's like a place to grow flowers, but we use it as a living room. And this it's paintings my children made for me. There's an empty space up there. It's made for my children. Often ask me, and I say it's because I want to show you that we can put up more paintings. It's not finished. It's a working piece. And here is Juliane living, and she has a little animal, which is also a kind of symbol of our flat, our house, because it's a very tiny animal, and it has a very tiny cage to live in. But I used to tell them that this animal has more space than we have. 50 years ago, people in Denmark also lived in Copenhagen, lived in small flats, and they had a lot of children, and they had a nice childhood anyway. So
It's like a big family. Yeah, also like a big family. I have friends in the school and I have friends home. It's very nice because so I have many friends. Det er dejligt at have nogle voksne, de er meget sådan, passer på en. Ja, hvis nu at der er nogen... Hvis nu jeg har slået mig ned i handen, så er der altid en, der kan komme rendende, hvis det sker noget. Eat together, and it's very, very nice. Og lasagnen er deroppe. Ja, tak.
I have 3 children and they eat a lot. It helps me a lot to live in this community because we eat together nearly every evening. We cook 1 or 2 times a month each. It takes 4, maybe 5 hours. And to cook only twice a month instead of every day, it saves a lot of energy of thinking, what is the meal today? And to buy all the stuff and to make it and to do the dishwash. Every day it saves, I don't know, 2 hours and a lot of energy.
And this place, when we get 14, we have to make food.
So it's 2 girls and 14 cooking for 40, 50 people. It's really cool. And they come to ask for help, but they are very good, they do it. Everybody is talking about stress and the families with small children have stress because they come home from work, they have to buy, they have to cook. And when I come home and I have had my shower, and then I have 2 or 3 hours with my children. I like that these elder people living here because they are kind of grandmother and grandfather for my children. I feel they love my children as much as I do, and they are happy when they visit them and they come here and they get hugs from my children. And I feel it's a gift from me to my children to live here. So it was a miracle I found this place. It saved me kind of to find it because I needed to be surrounded by other grown-ups, not only my own very small children. I have lived here for 12 years now. I gladly take 12 years more.
I think when we work in a community, we realize that, you know, my life is pretty good as it is, and I have something to give to somebody who maybe doesn't have something that I have. And I think that makes people switch from sort of focusing on what don't I have to what do I have that I can share. And that's a very powerful thing that we know from the research makes people happier.
We all need something bigger than ourselves to care about. And for some people, structured religion gives that to them. For other people, they don't believe in that kind of structured religion, but they have compassion, caring, gratitude, and these spiritual feelings that connect them to the universe and connect them to other people. Now, one of the other things we know is that not all religious people are happy, or not all religions are happy.
If you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, then he'll curse you.
According to church leaders, Hindu radicals were opposed to the event and began attacking Christian homes and churches.
There are certain conditions, according to Jewish law, under which non-Jews may live here. This doesn't apply to the Arabs. They don't fit the category. They have to get the hell out.
If you look at the very fundamentalist groups who believe that everybody else is going to hell but their group, they're not happy, or they're less happy than other people.
Happiness isn't just about feeling more blissful and content. Happy people tend to function better. They're more productive, they're healthier, and the research suggests they even live longer. Well, if long life is an indication of happiness, then the people in Okinawa, Japan might just be ecstatic. Because according to the Guinness Book of World Records, that's where a disproportionate number of the world's oldest people live. So despite the stress and unhappiness in other parts of Japan, The islanders of Okinawa have a different story to tell, one of longevity and happiness.
沖縄の人はね、働いて、畑で働いてきて、夕ご飯食べて、孫なんかと言っときゃ、話し声やってか、すぐ眠るからね、ぐっすり眠るからこんな健康になって。
医学的にはこう説明することできないですけどね、小木さんがですね、こう長寿の村といってですね、宣言したのはですね、確かになんとか100歳人口比例ですね、100歳以上の方が世界一であるということですね。
金も買ってるすると言って非常に働いた。だからこんな健康。晩になったらまたね、晩になったら晩酌。少しやったら非常にぐっすり眠る。
前はね、サウナにわざわざ汗出しに行ってさね、だけどこの畑仕事したら2時間働いてきたらね、もう汗がびっそり、もうとってもいい気持ち。もう汗がびっそりだからすぐお風呂入って朝ごはん食べてまた洗濯やったり。
Besides experiencing flow on a regular basis, Okinawans grow vegetables that subsidize their livelihoods and provide gifts for friends and neighbors, bringing the people even closer together.
自分が作ったのはもう本当に美味しい。全然総力何もしないから。気持ちのせいかね、自分たちで作ったのが美味しい。幸せです。
Even the Okinawan traditions keep people connected in unique ways. The island has a traditional band of about 50 people, and the rule is that the band members must be between the ages of 20 and 30. The band is supported by community funds and plays in a different village every Friday night. Since there's not much other nightlife on the island, lots of people come out to see them, both young and old. It's a tradition that ensures regular contact between people, not only from different villages, but from different generations. The Okinawan elders gather each afternoon to have tea and talk about the day at a local community center. And though now housed in a modern building, it's been a staple in Okinawan society as long as people there can remember.
悪いことしていけないというこの気持ちがみんなに親しくしているっていう部の兵がこう兵隊がみんなの。私はね、戦争未亡人だけど。私は一人もやって、この中近所ってこのね、付き合いする。大君の方に、高田との方にもね、踊り習いに行ったり、カラオケしに行きましたよ。このおばさんが一番可愛い私は。本当、友達ですよ。友達がいっぱいいるのが一番幸せ。どっちかというと、とにかく家庭はですね、各家庭、みんな、たまたま不幸があるときは、もう部落の人がみんな、この、
したら、前は埋葬だったけど、今も仮葬になりました。仮葬してきたら、してうちら団体一門ばかといってね、兵糧の墓から箱に遺骨を拾ってきてね、拾ってきて、この遺骨をすぐこぼしてみんな墓の中にみんな全部のもの。もう一家族という意味で。そう一門。
social bonding, social interaction, cooperation is programmed to be intrinsically rewarding to humans. That's how we inhibit our self-interest in order to do something with someone. Otherwise, you wouldn't cooperate. You'd be totally self-interested. We do not behave that way. We're social creatures. Interestingly enough, when you put people into a social exchange, where they're given the opportunity to cooperate or to compete, they will in general cooperate with one another. That cooperation elicits dopamine signals that you can measure in the striatum, just like you were squirting juice or cocaine into them. In other words, the act of cooperating with another human can, in the right circumstances, feel just as good as taking a drug that affects your dopamine system.
You claim to be a player, but I f***ed your wife.
In a culture that often encourages competition instead of cooperation, Michael Pritchard has a unique way of teaching kids about happiness.
Middle school, isn't that a wonderful time when you're all going,
whatever. Talk to the booty, the hands off duty. Talk to the palm, you're not the bomb. Loser, loner, wannabe, whatever. No, dust, shut up. I don't think so. I read it on MySpace. Shut up.
I love 8th grade boys on the phone. They go, tight, sick, hey, who is this? Well, I'm up here sweating like Britney Spears on Jeopardy. How many of you every day see a kid here who gets isolated, teased, picked on, laughed at, and has become the target of lots of other kids teasing and bullying? Raise your hands, please. Raise your hands high, high. Look around the room, please. Look how disconnected we get over stuff. I mean, how many of you guys play that video game, Grand Theft Auto Vice City? You run over homeless people. You beat a prostitute to death with a tire iron. You run over cops, paramedics, firefighters. Am I right? Yeah. We love you guys. A great teacher named Helen Keller was asked, "Oh, Miss Keller, it must be hard for you to be blind." And she said, "It would be if I had no vision, because we really see with our hearts." Think about what your hearts are seeing that sometimes disconnect you. Think. And it can be the little words, just the little words. I was a coach out at Special Olympics. You ever seen a kid run and laugh? Yeah, I was out there at Special Olympics having a little 11-year-old girl I'm coaching. Boom, the gun goes off and she takes off running. What a heart, what a spirit. And I hear kids say cruel things to her, but she's a good teacher. She takes off running, she goes, "Yes! Whoa! This is not an Olympic form runner. She's hitting every lane." And she gets all the way down to the finish line, 40 yards in front of everybody, and she stops. And I was her coach. And I said, "Annie, no, come here. You win the gold medal." "No, coach." I said, "No, you don't understand. They're catching up. Walk to me, snap it. Come here." "No, Mike, please." And she turned around and she put her hand out for her friend, who turned and put her hand out for her friend. And then all 6 kids held hands and came across the finish line together. And she goes, "Whoa! Together we all would win. Together we all would win." I know that there are kids in this room who have been teased and picked on and left out and isolated. Can I get a volunteer of somebody who can share what it feels like? Big round of applause. Come on down. I'm very proud of you, son. Stand in front of me. I'm proud of you. Tell me what happens sometimes. What do they say?
I have a depression disorder and ADHD, so it just feels like life, it feels like it shouldn't be this hard. It's just like every day after school, you start crying for no reason.
What have kids said to you, Ben?
Nerd, loser, gay, all that stuff.
What has it done to your heart, son?
Just makes me feel really bad.
Is it fair to you?
No.
Is it fair to any kid at this school?
No.
Stop a minute. Not on the football field, not in the basketball court, not in all the best academic classes or languages you have, will you see beneath your middle such courage as this. This is the courage you should learn to love and respect and honor. Give his heart a huge round of applause. That's courage, guys. Who else can share?
Everybody knows I'm Joey. So I'm like the shortest kid inside this room. Nobody else is shorter than me. So everybody makes fun of me. They don't even know, man. It's not fair.
Stop a second now, Joe. Take a deep breath. How should we all treat each other? Come with the love now, buddy. Come with the love. Come with the love. How should we all treat each other, Joey?
We should just feel how they feel and tell them that ain't right. You shouldn't be doing that.
Give that a huge round of applause. Good job, brother. Good job. I love you, sir. Good job. Compassion leads to happiness. Big round of applause. This is the Venetian school you go to. Let them know. Let them know. This is the way you go. This encouragement. You guys are awesome. True? Joy comes from that connection to others. The best thing we can do for a child is to help them learn love.
What lies at the core of a human being before modern culture influences our thoughts about happiness? What made us happy before we had video games and the internet and television? What made us happy before cars and electricity? In the southern African country of Namibia, there lives a group of people who are genetically more closely related to our ancient ancestors than any group of people on the planet today. They are the San Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert. Though some modern culture has come to them in the form of t-shirts and baseball hats, the broad strokes of their culture remain intact. They get much of their food from hunting game and gathering roots and berries, and there remains a feeling among the Bushmen of complete interdependence with each other and with the natural environment. The Bushmen feel responsible for each other's health and well-being. So when someone gets sick in their village, rather than sending that person to the nearest doctor, the entire community, even the children, participate in the healing process. No one is left out.
My real guru to teach me the value of compassion is my mother. The first act after birth is relying on mother and sucking milk. At that time, no idea who is that person. but simply, you see, just the mother side also, tremendous sense of care, affection, compassion. So the bond, closeness between mother and child, not by law, not by religious teaching, but by nature. Compassion from birth in our blood. These are there. Not only at the beginning, but the whole life.
Compassion. Richard Davidson told us that people who do a specific form of meditation on compassion and loving kindness can increase their happiness levels to a greater extent and for longer periods of time, even than people taking powerful antidepressant medications.
There are specific meditation practices that have been around for more than 2,500 years, which are explicitly designed to cultivate qualities like compassion and loving kindness. The person we've tested the most in our lab is a person by the name of Mathieu Ricard. He has been a Tibetan Buddhist monk for more than 30 years. He also holds a PhD in molecular biology. And we have looked intensively at Mathieu's brain, both at rest as well as when he is intentionally generating these states of compassion. So there's no obvious change in external behavior. You know, he's just sitting there, and then we give him the instruction to begin the compassion meditation, and all of a sudden, it's like, you know, parts of the brain are on fire. These are areas of the brain which are extremely important for understanding happiness and well-being. And so we are, for example, currently doing studies where we are having people who've never meditated before, and we're having them do very simple exercises. 2 weeks of training in this simple compassion practice does change the brain in ways which are similar to, although not nearly as well defined as what we see in very long-term meditation practitioners. There is some evidence to indicate that we actually change the gross structure of the brain, literally the size of particular cortical areas in the brain change in their thickness. We, through intention, can change our brain.
We ask people to count their blessings on a regular basis. Say every Sunday night you sit down, you write down 5 things for which you're grateful and kind of try to contemplate that. And we found that the students who counted their blessings once a week, every Sunday night, became happier. A couple studies we did, we asked people to commit acts of kindness on a regular basis. You know, they're going out and they're putting change in parking meters, and they're, you know, helping their friend with homework, or was visiting someone in the nursing home, or, you know, really doing real, you know, concrete behaviors. And it seems to me from our experience that the acts of kindness so far have been the most effective.
Mother Teresa, a symbol of compassion, opened her first home for dying and destitute people here in Calcutta, India. Andy Wimmer is a volunteer at the home.
I was a bank and computer manager for many years, and a quite ambitious fellow. I wanted to become the youngest bank director there, spoiled with a good income, used and spent a lot of money, and had a good life actually, enjoyed the life. Yeah? I used to waste a lot of money on fashion, for example. I was quite a fellow with quite, you know, into fashion and all these things. But it is not important anymore. I always felt that there is more in this life, you know, than just going to the bank and having a good salary and having a good career and maybe a wife and children, and that's it. It can't be. Life is such a precious and beautiful thing. There should be some more, you know. I met someone who worked in the home for the dying, and he said, I show you that place, and if you like feeling helping us, then you're welcome. Yeah? Bon appetit. I remember when I came first into the home for the dying, the first thing I saw was a young dying boy, maybe 15 years old, in very bad condition. And I had to feed him. And I don't know, I fed him and he ate with great difficulties, but then he opened his eyes and looked at me, and I thought, so that's it now, you know? So it was like a flash, it was like a small enlightenment. You learn a lot from these patients we care for. For example, acceptance and tolerance also. So we pick the people up usually from garbage dumps and from railway station platforms and admit them in the home, and then with basic medical care we try to save their lives. But the most important is to show them that they are loved by God, that they are not forgotten, that their life is precious, that someone cares. So we do everything by hand, but there is a tremendous sweetness in taking someone's burden up a little bit. Just to lift this little bent body and take the burden away a little bit and help him to carry it. My life has a meaning. You have someone, a dying man in front of you, a dying young man, and he asks for a glass of water. It is very little, but it's so important to give him this glass of water. It's such a symbolic act even, you know? I got this life. I get my parents, my friends. I was never really sick. I had always enough food to eat. I am the first one in my generations which never experienced a war. For me, my life is like a loan given from God, and I will give this loan back, but with interest. And that's what we do. You serve your brother in front of you who is in need, and it gives yourself a fulfilled, happy life. Perfect, no?
Gratitude, compassion, caring, love. These are, to me, what I would call spiritual emotions. And they make you think of things bigger than yourself. If you only seek your own happiness, it can be kind of a selfish thing. But once you move to the spiritual emotions and worry about the well-being of the world, your life grows. You care about something bigger than yourself. You, in a way, can transcend your own life, your own death, by caring about these things that are bigger than yourself.
If each of us even spent a smidgen of time each day actually practicing to cultivate happiness and also to cultivate other virtuous qualities like compassion and altruism, the world would really be a better place, and we'd all be transforming our brains in very positive ways.
And it's not about, oh, I must change my life totally and cut off from my past and I'll be a better person. It's not about that. It's because the trick is to be authentically you.
We should really be thinking of happiness as a skill, which is no different than learning to play the violin or learning to play golf.
The formula for happiness is not the same for everyone. But the good news is that the things we love to do are the building blocks of a happy life. Play, having new experiences, friends and family, doing things that are meaningful, appreciating what we have. These are the things that make us happy, and they're free. And with happiness, the more you have, the more everyone has.